Thank you, Mayor Velto, City Manager Blay, and City Council members. My name is Stephen Ondich. You're welcome. Council members, thank you.
You're now connected to the meeting. Please state your name for the record. You may start your comments now.
In the quiet suburbs of Upland, California, January 20th, 1988, began like any other winter evening. The warm glow of Pizza Chalet, a beloved local restaurant, beckoned families inside with the promise of hot pizza and lively conversation. Among them were Barbara Betts and her two children, 11-year-old Sean and his sister Pamela. None of them could have known that this ordinary Wednesday night would mark the beginning of a mystery that would haunt their community for decades to come. Sean was a typical boy with an infectious smile, green eyes that lit up at the sight of video games, and a distinctive birthmark on the left side of his jaw. As his mother and sister ordered dinner, he did what any kid his age would do, asked for some quarters to play the arcade games that lined the restaurant's back wall. The familiar electronic beeps and flashing lights of the games filled the air as Sean enjoyed himself, completely unaware that time was counting down to a moment that would change everything. Minutes later, Sean approached his mother with an innocent request that would torment her for years to come. A friend, the son of Pizza Chalet's owner, had invited him to watch a basketball game at Upland High School, about 8 miles away. Barbara hesitated briefly. She didn't know the friend well, but something about the normalcy of the request, the safe community they lived in, and her son's eager face made her agree. "Save me some pizza," Sean called out as he bounded toward the door. Those 5 simple words would echo in Barbara's memory as the last she would ever hear from her son. The night stretched on, and Sean never came home. What began as concern evolved into panic, then settled into a devastating reality that persists to this day. 36 years later, Sean Betts' disappearance remains one of Upland's most perplexing mysteries. Unlike many cold cases where evidence deteriorated or leads went cold, this case stands out for a different reason. It received surprisingly little attention until February 2022, when a Crimehound Channel investigation thrust it back into the spotlight. Before his disappearance, Sean was the kind of kid who made an impression on everyone he met. Born on June 21, 1976, to Dennis and Barbara Betts, he embodied the spirit of childhood in 1980s California. Baseball cards protruded from his pockets, his skateboard was never far from reach, and he'd already shown an early work ethic, sweeping floors at the local radio shack. His Little League teammate, Kevin Charlebois, would later recall with a catch in his voice, he was always a happy kid, sociable with friends, always had a smile on his face. That fateful night, dressed in gray clothes and white shoes, Sean left with the owner's son. Their plans quickly derailed when they discovered the basketball game was being played away. They returned to Pizza Chalet, where witnesses confirmed seeing them playing video games around 9:00 p.m. Then, according to the restaurant owners, Sean left alone. A detail that would later help clear their son of involvement, but also marked the beginning of an enduring mystery. Back home, the Betts family kept their vigil, eyes fixed on the front door, expecting any moment to see Sean's apologetic face peek through. As minutes turned to hours, their hope curdled into fear. When they finally reported him missing, they encountered what would become one of the case's most criticized aspects, the Upland Police's response. Echoing the tragic handling of the Jason Jakowski case, authorities waited 10 crucial days before launching a formal investigation, dismissing Sean's disappearance as likely just another runaway case. This delay would cast a long shadow over the investigation, leaving the family to wonder what crucial evidence might have been lost in those critical first days. The haunting call came the day after Sean vanished. A woman's voice, weathered with age, rang through the Sierra Vista Elementary School office, delivering news that sent chills through the staff. Sean wouldn't be returning to school. He had, the mystery caller claimed, moved to Washington to live with his grandmother. But this story, like so many elements of this case, harbored a dark impossibility. Sean's grandmother, who had indeed once lived in Washington, had passed away from cancer before his disappearance. The call, an elaborate deception by someone who knew just enough details to be convincing, would become another ghostly thread in this increasingly complex tapestry. While Upland authorities dragged their feet, treating the disappearance with a dismissiveness that would later prove devastating, the Betts family refused to accept their son had simply run away. They knew their boy, his cheerful demeanor, his stable home life, his complete lack of any warning signs. The suggestion that he'd voluntarily disappeared made no sense, especially in Upland, a city where danger lurked beneath its suburban veneer. With approximately 5 serious crimes reported daily and a crime rate of 72 per 1,000 residents, the streets that Sean had vanished from were far from safe. Desperate for answers, the Betts family launched their own investigation, retracing Sean's last known steps through the familiar warmth of Pizza Chalet. Their efforts led them to a nearby beauty supply store where an employee reported seeing Sean with an older white male that fateful night. But like so many leads in this case, this one dissolved under scrutiny. The witness's uncertainty about crucial details rendered her account frustratingly unreliable. Was this mysterious man connected to Sean's disappearance, or just another dead end in an investigation already plagued by them? Days stretched into weeks as the family plastered the community with missing person posters, knocked on countless doors, and clung to the heart-wrenching echo of Sean's final words, "Save me some pizza." That promised meal would remain untouched, a cruel reminder of a return that would never come. When police finally launched a formal investigation 4 months later, precious time had slipped away like sand through an hourglass, carrying potential evidence and witnesses with it. But perhaps the most disturbing turn in the investigation came when authorities inexplicably shifted their focus to Sean's 15-year-old brother. Despite being hundreds of miles away when Sean disappeared, the teenager endured a 5-hour interrogation, pressured to confess to a crime he couldn't possibly have committed. Police even searched the family's yard for Sean's body, adding another layer of trauma to an already grieving family. The Crime Hound channel, in a rare show of discretion, chose to protect the brother's identity, recognizing him as yet another victim of this tragic mystery. The investigation's mishandling bore a painful irony. While investigators wasted time pursuing impossible leads and harassing an innocent teenager, real clues grew cold, and the true story of what happened to Sean Betts slipped further into shadow. The family's anguish was compounded by the knowledge that somewhere, in those crucial first days of inaction, vital evidence might have vanished forever, taking with it their hopes of finding answers. Like a haunting echo from the past, the Pizza Chalet, that last ordinary place where Sean's story began to unravel, closed its doors shortly after his disappearance. More unsettling still, the owners seemingly vanished into thin air, only to resurface briefly in Los Angeles before reportedly fleeing to the Middle East. Unlike their aggressive pursuit of Sean's innocent brother, authorities showed a puzzling lack of interest in questioning these key witnesses. The night employee who might have held crucial information was never thoroughly interviewed, and with the owner's departure, another vital thread in this mystery was left dangling. The tragedy of Sean's case lay not just in his disappearance, but in how quickly it faded from public consciousness. Initially dismissed as a runaway, his story barely made ripples beyond a brief mention in local papers. It wasn't until 1993 that Sean's face reached millions of Americans through an unexpected medium, Soul Asylum's Runaway Train music video. Among the faces of 36 missing children, Sean's image flickered across television screens nationwide, a testament to the band's commitment to bringing attention to these forgotten cases. In 2022, when the Crime Hound channel revived interest in Sean's case, the world finally saw the toll of decades of uncertainty etched across Barbara Betts's 73-year-old face. Sitting beside her daughter Pamela, Barbara's voice carried the weight of 34 years of unanswered questions. Dennis, Sean's father, had passed away in 2009, taking his hopes of finding his son to the grave. When asked about her own hopes of finding Sean alive, Barbara's voice trembled with raw emotion. "It is hard for me to stay hopeful. Even if he is not alive, I'd still like to know what happened, where his remains are, where his bones are. I need some kind of closure." The renewed attention brought modern resources to this decades-old case. Pamela, refusing to let her brother's memory fade, advocated for advanced DNA testing. In a promising development, Upland Police Lieutenant Anthony Kabayan confirmed that DNA samples from the family had been submitted to the FBI for analysis. Pamela's plea to the public cut straight to the heart of the matter. "Please, somebody knows something. Come forward. It is time for closure. My mom has the right to know what happened to her son. An 11-year-old just doesn't disappear." Today, Sean would be 48 years old. Somewhere between that last slice of pizza saved for a boy who never came home and the present moment lies the truth about what happened on that January night in 1988. As technology advances and memories surface, the Betts family continues their vigil, hoping that someone, somewhere, carries the key to unlocking this decades-old mystery, whether it leads to the closure they've sought for so long, or, by some miracle, to a reunion they've never stopped praying for. The questions remain. Why did the owners leave so suddenly? What did the night employee witness? Who made that chilling phone call to the school? And most importantly, what really happened to Sean Betts after he walked out of Pizza Chalet that winter evening in 1988? Delving into the shadows of this cold case, 3 distinct theories have emerged over the decades, each offering a possible explanation for Sean's disappearance, yet none providing the closure his family so desperately seeks. The first theory, and perhaps the most chilling, suggests a stranger abduction. The 1980s were a different time, when children moved freely through their neighborhoods without constant supervision. That January evening, as Sean stepped out of Pizza Chalet's warmth into the winter air, he may have been watched by predatory eyes that had been tracking him for weeks, waiting for precisely such a moment. While this theory aligns with the circumstances, it remains frustratingly devoid of concrete evidence. Then there's the runaway scenario, initially favored by law enforcement. Some whispered about Sean's occasional conflicts at school, particularly one altercation that had escalated to legal proceedings. With a court date approaching, did the pressure become too much? But this theory crumbles under scrutiny. Barbara's voice still breaks when she recalls Sean's cherished blanket, left behind in his bedroom along with his prized baseball glove, Little League trophies, and clothes, items no child planning to run would abandon. The Pizza Chalet theory casts a darker shadow. The Crime Hound investigation revealed the family's lingering suspicions about the restaurant's owners. Some whispered that the elderly owner might have harbored sinister intentions. Others suggested their son might have accidentally harmed Sean. The owner's sudden departure to their home country in the Middle East only fueled these suspicions. Yet, as one Reddit user astutely noted, their hasty exit might have been driven more by fear of continued police harassment than guilt. After careful analysis, the stranger abduction theory emerges as the most plausible explanation. The mysterious phone call to Sierra Vista Elementary, with its carefully crafted lie about Sean moving to Washington, suggests a perpetrator who knew enough about Sean's life to construct a believable story. This calculated deception, mentioning his grandmother's connection to Washington while being unaware of her passing, points to someone who had been watching Sean, learning his routines, and waiting for the perfect opportunity. The caller's detailed yet flawed knowledge suggests someone who had studied Sean from afar, perhaps for months, gathering information but missing crucial details that would later expose their deception. The timing and nature of the call appear designed to buy precious time, allowing any evidence to grow cold while investigators pursued false leads. As we approach 2025, advances in DNA technology and the case's renewed publicity offer fresh hope for answers. But until then, the truth about what happened after Sean left Pizza Chalet that winter night remains locked in the past, waiting to be uncovered. The question remains, what crucial detail might we have overlooked? What seemingly insignificant memory from that night might finally crack this case wide open? Are there other aspects of this case you think deserve closer examination? Or perhaps you've noticed connections we might have missed? The truth about Sean's disappearance may still be out there, waiting for the right piece of the puzzle to fall into place.